Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hey everyone, Jeremy Signor here. I'm a freelance writer, a podcast host for the Games Are Queer podcast, and I'm a streamer. So if you want to check out any of those things of mine, check out my Twitter at Jeremy_writes. I'm here today to talk about one of my favorite games of all time. That is Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Now I credit this game as getting me back into gaming after spending a while away. I purchased a copy of Electronic Gaming Monthly on a whim because I saw that it had Metal Gear Solid 3 on the cover, and I was so out of the loop I didn't even know there was a Metal Gear Solid 3 coming out. And I started reading the reviews, and one of them was for Metroid Prime 2, and I knew about Metroid Prime. I kind of always wanted to play it. Something about 2 just kind of spoke to me instantly. And so I asked for it for Christmas, along with, like, possibly Metal Gear Solid 3, or I think it was Halo 2. But anyway, the game I got was Metroid Prime 2, and it honestly blew me away because I had never played a game where the Metroidvania formula was transferred into first person in 3D, which is something you can say about the original Metroid Prime. But I've since realized there's more to 2 than just being my first Metroid Prime. When I later played the first Metroid Prime, I was struck by how basic it felt when it came to the environments. Like, there was a fire environment, there was a ice environment, there was a pirate race environment. It was pretty basic and pretty video gamey. But when you get to Metroid Prime 2, the environments feel a lot more organic and alien. Like, you got some arid wastes, you got a swamp. They feel like real biomes. And this isn't even taking into account the dual nature of the world. In this game, you can go into a portal to go into a dark side of the planet, and it's the same yet different. Like, you'll recognize different things that you went through already, but the structure of the rooms is different, the way you traverse through the world is different, and if you've played A Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. So that was one big part of why it captured my attention. I love parallel world games, and I love it when a game makes me backtrack through a different version of a room I've already been in. And that's not even taking into account the last area, which is one of my favorite areas in any game ever, which is Sanctuary Fortress. It's a mechanized citadel where all the machines have turned against you. And it's pretty much your standard industrial type setting, except the way you go through this level is atypical. So you're basically finding different vulnerabilities in the environment to get to rooms that you didn't think you were going to go to, that may have been off the path you thought you were going to go down, but they end up in cool new places. This is also the place where you get the Echo Visor, which is a really cool item that lets you find different sonic pings in order to unlock stuff. And then the enemies are just really fun to fight against. And yeah, that's pretty much a big reason why the game is stuck with me when Metroid Prime 1 didn't, is the environments. There is another reason why this game is near and dear to me, and to understand that, I'll go into a little background about myself. I had an incident when I was younger where I ended up having a panic attack. And after that panic attack, I ended up getting agoraphobic tendencies. What that means is I would panic anytime I wasn't in a place I deemed safe or around people I deemed safe. So, like, tent poles, where the further I am away from the tent pole, the worse I degrade. Now, this game, Metroid Prime 2, has a mechanic where when you're in the dark world, the atmosphere is hostile to you. The very air hurts you. The only way you can survive is by going from these poles of light that act as safe spaces, and you go between each of these poles, and on the way in between, you get slowly drained away. To me, that is a perfect metaphor for what I went through with my agoraphobia, where I'll be in a safe space, and then when I venture out of that safe space toward maybe another safe space, or maybe attempting to push against the boundaries, I would degrade further and further and start to panic more and more. And it's a living metaphor that just works so well that it wouldn't surprise me if the dev team said they took panic attacks and agoraphobia into consideration when making this. They probably didn't, but that's just how complete that whole metaphor for what I went through is. And there's not a lot of games that I can say that about. So it occupies a special place in my heart because, in a funny way, it kind of gets me. It gets where I came from. Now, this metaphor sort of seems to stop working shortly after you get through the first area, when you get the suit that makes you resistant to the atmosphere, so you can move about more freely, even though you do still take a little damage. And then eventually you get another suit where you're just immune. I am proud to say that I eventually got help for my agoraphobia. I saw someone, I got on some meds. I was able to break free of the pattern of bouncing between safe spaces, and I was able to just go where I wanted without panic. I think that completes the metaphor in my mind. Like, the fact that you're not staying in safe spaces in Metroid Prime 2, but you're constantly pushed toward progress, even though it's going to hurt. And then eventually you get an upgrade where it doesn't hurt as much anymore until you get to the point where it doesn't hurt at all. That is amazingly powerful in my mind, and one of the reasons why Metroid Prime 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. And with that said, I hope you check it out sometime if you haven't, or if you have, replay it. It remains one of my favorite games, and I will always be happy to play it. And until the next time, happy gaming!
Hey, Nerf herders.
You sure you want to go with that?
Hey, everyone?
There we go. More inviting.
Have you ever had a movie that you really wanted to love, but something holds you back?
Or one that you did love in spite of a flaw?
Well, I'm Kay Sagan.
And I'm Sam Alisea.
And on Another Pass, we sit down with cool guests to look at movies that we find fascinating.
But flawed.
And we try to imagine what could have been done when they were made to give them that little push.
We're not experts. We just believe in criticism.
Constructive criticism.
Sure.
So come take another pass at some movies with us.
And every now and then, we can celebrate movies that did it on their own, too.
You can find us at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Pass it on.
CPOV.
certainpov.com.